There are two types of revolution in football, the violent overthrow and the controlled burn. One smashes systems, the other infects them from within. One is celebrated immediately, the other is doubted until it's too late. Welcome to the second kind. This is not just the story of a footballer, this is the story of an idea. An idea that walks and breathes and wears number 10 for Manchester City. An idea called Rayan Cherki. And this is what happens when pure instinct meets absolute control. Every artist needs their first canvas. For Rayan Cherki, that canvas was not a gallery or a grand stage, but the raw, echoing cages of Lyon. In these tight urban spaces, the game is stripped to its essence. No lush grass, no lines, just concrete, fences, and the sound of the ball echoing off the walls. Here, imagination is your only limit. There are no coaches barking orders, no parents shouting from the sidelines, just you, your friends, and the challenge in front of you. One defender, little space, unlimited pride. Solve the puzzle, or get left behind. Cherki thrived in this chaos, learning to improvise, to create, to make the impossible look easy. By the time he reached Olympique Lyonnais' famed academy, a place that produced Benzema, Lacazette, Tolisso, Cherki was already different. The drill was pass and move. He would pass, with backspin. The instruction was shoot low. He would chip the keeper, grinning. You couldn't coach him in the normal way. If you said, do this, he would do it, but always with his signature. Sometimes it was frustrating, more often it was breathtaking, and the numbers back it up. In his first 100 senior appearances, Cherki racked up 14 goals and 16 assists, with a dribble success rate over 60%. He averages 2.5 key passes per 90 minutes, and completes more take-ons than almost any other player his age in Europe. But the stats only tell part of the story. Cherki became the youngest player ever to score for Lyon in European competition, and the youngest to provide an assist in League One for the club. By the age of 20, he had already surpassed 100 senior appearances, a milestone few reach so early. With 14 goals and 16 assists in those first 100 games, and a dribble success rate that puts him among Europe's elite, Cherki's numbers are more than impressive. They're historic. He's not just a prodigy, he's rewriting the record books for Lyon and for French football. The birth of instinct, measured not just in moments, but in numbers that hint at a revolution in the making. And then, football accelerated. At 16 years and 63 days, history, the youngest debutant, then the youngest scorer. A child in the fiery crucible of League One. They called it a fairy tale. But in football, fairy tales are contracts written in invisible ink. With every dazzling dribble in the Champions League, with every defense-splitting pass against Paris, the prophecy grew louder. He is the next one. The problem with prophecies? They speak only of talent. They say nothing of patience. They ignore the weight of the crown they are placing on a head still learning its own strength. He was playing chess while everyone else played checkers, but no one had taught him the clock was ticking. Let's break it down. What does luxury player truly mean? It is not an insult to skill. It is an indictment of compatibility. It is the footballing equivalent of a spectacular soloist who cannot read sheet music. The orchestra needs both. By 2023, Cherki existed in a paradox. He was Lyon's most valuable asset and their most complex problem. Coaches came and went, each promised to be the one to unlock the full package. Peter Bosz wanted him to be the free number 10. Laurent Blanc wanted more discipline. None could solve the equation. How do you harness lightning without losing the storm? The statistics told a story of sublime isolation. Top percentiles in Europe for dribbles completed, for progressive carries, for creating shots. But alongside them, the haunting numbers, bottom percentiles for pressures, for tackles, for defensive actions. The data painted a portrait of an artist who only picked up his brush when inspiration struck, not when the commission demanded it. The frustration became palpable. You could see it in his body language. The dropped shoulders after a lost ball he felt wasn't his responsibility. The exasperated look when a move broke down because he held it a touch too long. And then, the ultimate rejection, not from a club, but from a narrative. As his peers, Jude Bellingham, Jamal Musiala, evolved into all-round, system-ready superstars, Cherki risked becoming a relic, a reminder of a bygone era of pure number 10s. The footballing world nodded with a sad, knowing sympathy. He has everything, except the mentality. A YouTube player, the most painful label of all. What could have been, while he was still right there. This was the wilderness. Not of failure, but of stagnation. Not of being forgotten, but of being misunderstood. The door to the elite seemed to be closing, and he was holding it open with nothing but pure, stubborn flair. He was football's most beautiful problem. And in the summer of 2025, the most demanding mind in the game decided he was the solution. The call came not from just any club, but from the temple of control itself.
When the call came, in the summer of 2025, it felt less like a transfer and more like a theological proposition. Manchester City, Pep Guardiola. The news broke not with jubilation, but with disbelief. Had the high priest of tactical orthodoxy just invited the game's last great heretic into his temple? This was not a signing, it was a statement. £4 million question mark etched into the history books. What was Pep thinking? Stand Guardiola's history with Mavericks. He didn't reject talent, he repurposed it. He took Lionel Messi's anarchic genius and gave it a postal code, the false nine. He turned Philipp Lahm, a fullback, into the brain of his midfield. He saw what others could not, the function within the flair. His first words on Cherki were a perfect microcosm of this philosophy. He has incredible skills. The quality is top, the recognition. Then the re-education. But he must learn to read the game. Not the game, a game, his game, the City game. Cherki arrived not to the Etihad, but to the laboratory. His first training sessions were reportedly humbling. In Lyon, he was the sun around which tactics orbited. At City, he was a new planet in a perfectly calibrated solar system. If he drifted out of orbit, the gravity of the system pulled him back. Pass and move, the hallowed mantra. He would receive the ball, set himself for a dribble, and look up to find 5 passing options he hadn't even considered. The genius of Pep Guardiola is that he doesn't suppress creativity. He surrounds it with so much structure that creativity becomes the most logical, the most lethal outcome. His role was meticulously crafted. They did not call him a winger. They did not call him a 10. The term coined was the free 8 or the half-space conductor. He would start nominally on the right, but his passport was for the inside channel. That sacred zone between the opposition's lines. It was simple, yet infinitely complex. But here, you have 3 seconds. The defender will show you the answer. He will lean, his eyes will betray him. That is your moment. Not before, not after. This was the grand bargain. For permanent freedom, for the keys to moments of absolute devastating liberty. Nation was not overnight. It was cellular. Early appearances were cautious. The flick was replaced by the one-touch pass. The 30-yard dribble was exchanged for a 15-yard vertical ball that broke the line. Groaned. They've coached the magic out of him. They missed the point entirely. They were not removing the magic. They were converting it from potential energy into kinetic. Then, the moment of alchemy, the Carabao Cup 2025, Brentford at home. It's not a glamorous fixture, but honestly, it's the perfect pressure cooker. Organized, stubborn opponent. The game is tight. The old instinct screams, drive at them, make them fear you. He takes a touch, then another. The Brentford defender, Ben Mee, settles into his stance. He expects the dart inside, the drop of the shoulder. This is the dance Cherki has done 1,000 times. But here, in this temple of control, he hears a new rhythm. It's to dribble, and Mee bites just a centimetre. The space opens not at his feet, but 25 yards from goal. a canyon in the mind of the defender. Doesn't explode. He unfurls. A third touch sets the ball onto his left foot. No backlift, just a whip of the ankle. The ball doesn't soar, it arcs with malicious intent, dipping over the goalkeeper's despairing hand and kissing the underside of the bar on its way in. The stadium erupts. But watch Pep, he doesn't leap. He nods, a single, firm, approving nod. That nod was worth more than any Man of the Match award. It was the seal of approval from the master alchemist. The goal was not a moment of rebellion. It was the ultimate act of integration. Instinct, triggered by structure. Weeks were a revelation. And to shift. His defensive actions per 90 minutes climbed. His pass completion rate soared into the 90s. He was no longer a soloist, lead violinist who now understood the entire symphony. Praise became more specific, more devastating. He sees the pictures now. Before, he only saw the frame. Played from memory, was learning to compose in real time. Legacy is not built in moments. It is forged in the mundane. In the Tuesday night away at Sheffield United. In the relentless, grinding procession of a Premier League campaign. This is where the true test began. Follows every prodigy consistency. Reduce that half-space magic when his legs were heavy, when the pitch was muddy, when the opposition had studied his every new tendency. The winter of 2025 brought the answer. Muscle injury, 2 weeks out. The whispers, those old familiar ghosts, crept back from the wilderness. Fragile, can't handle the load. Turn was off the bench, a 20-minute cameo against a low block. He touched the ball 12 times. He created 1 chance. He made 2 recoveries, no highlights, no viral clips. And in the post-match briefing, Guardiola was asked about Cherki's quiet return. His response? He was perfect. For 20 quiet minutes. To the outsider, it was baffling. To the initiated, it was the highest praise. He had played the system. He had kept the shape. He had been reliable. Scene 2. The final skill to master. Of his profile, reliability is the final, most difficult skill to master. This is the substance beneath the style. The unsexy, uncompromising curriculum of a Pep Guardiola player. Learning that sometimes your greatest contribution is a decoy run that pulls a centre-back out of position for Haaland. It is understanding that pressing from the front isn't an effort, it's the first line of creation. He began to speak a new language in interviews. I'm here to help the team in any way the coach needs. It wasn't a cliché, it was a manifesto. The luxury player was dead. In his place stood something more potent, more dangerous. A complete weapon, sharpened by the game's finest whetstone. What are we witnessing? Is Rayan Cherki the future of Manchester City's creativity, the heir to De Bruyne's throne? The answer is both simpler and more profound. He is not an heir, he is an evolution. De Bruyne is a force of nature, a thunderbolt of vision and power. Cherki is something else, a sleight of hand, a whisper that becomes a roar. It's the next stage of the Guardiola project, not just controlling space, but weaponizing surprise within that controlled space. Years from now, we may look back at this period not as the signing of a player, but the codification of a new archetype, the controlled maverick, the player who has the street in his feet and the tactical blueprint in his mind. His legacy won't be judged by trophies alone. At City, those are expected. It will be judged by whether he made the seemingly impossible systematic. Can you build a dynasty around spontaneous genius? Manchester City are betting a generation on it. The scene of this chapter is not written. Will there be setbacks? Of course. Will there be games where the old habits resurface? Undoubtedly. But the trajectory is clear. The boy who learned football in the cages of Lyon is being taught its highest level language in the halls of the Etihad. Giving answer to football's eternal debate, structure or soul. The beautiful, terrifying truth emerging at Manchester City is that the answer isn't one or the other. The answer is Rayan Cherki, a revolution, not with a bang, but with a perfectly weighted defense-splitting pass. Question mark. He's becoming an exclamation point, not of unchecked flair, but of flair, focused, of genius, guided, of instinct, intelligently applied. This is the controlled revolution, and it's just getting started. Was the vault. We see the game differently. Click on the screen to unlock how one man changed the history of Atlanta.